Good evening, good morning, good night. Um, for people in Nigeria and West Africa, it is an evening time here in Nigeria. I want to say good evening to you from anybody else that is viewing us live from any part of the world. I want to thank you according to the local time you have. This is West Africa, Nigeria, and I want to welcome you to the fourth week of Niger Data Platform. This is a 10-week long activity, and we are at the fourth week, which means we have already completed 3 weeks of learning and learning and learning, and this is the fourth week. This is the second session of this track, and concurrently, we also have another second session going on for the second track. And I want to introduce to you before I move ahead. I want to introduce to you our partners. We have the Microsoft, we have the Enterprise DNA, we have Jerry Computer Solutions Enterprise, and Converse Technology supporting this course of learning and teaching of generations that are tech enthusiasts. And next, I want to introduce my uh, speaker, who happens to be our speaker for this session, and his name is Tobi Kazeem. We'll be discussing on working with Azure Data Factory. If you have not heard about Microsoft Azure, you will get to know what is Microsoft Azure today. It is a cloud service and how people have been making use of it to better their lot. We'll get to know about it. Let me quickly take the profile of Mr. Kazeem. Uh, Mr. Tobi Kazeem is a Microsoft certified data analyst and data engineer associate. He is a skilled and experienced business intelligence solution developer on the Microsoft Data Platform with extensive solution development and deployment in financial investment, supply chain, human resources, sales and marketing, procurement, and manufacturing sectors. He is passionate about business growth, people, performance, and processes with the aim of adding values to organizations through intelligence from data and strategic decision making. He is currently working on the development of a standard financial reporting solution for generating financial reports in Power BI from a few clicks and a little user action. Dear listeners and dear viewers, Mr. Kazim is an awesome presenter and a grateful and insightful speaker. I'm very glad to have him on board. Mr. Kazim, you are welcome for this session.
Thanks, Mr. Bukola. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so thank you very much. I appreciate. Thank you on the Niger platform and everybody on board. It's always good to collaborate and learn together. So I will try to share my screen now. Okay, once you can see my screen. Okay. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, we
Okay,
can
can
see
you
your
see my
screen.
screen?
Yes, we can see your screen. Yes.
Okay, so let me come back. Okay, as introduced. Okay, so I think I'm on the working with Azure Data Factory.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
thanks to the business of the day, not to waste our time, um, not to waste anybody time. So Azure Data Factory. So we are here to know about how working with Azure Data Factory, how possible we can work with Azure Data Factory. But I've highlighted Azure Data Factory is a managed serverless data integration services. And I'll try to explain about what we mean by data integration services. When we talk about data integration, we talk about data movement and transformation. How you move data from one space to another. There's difference between data migration and data movement. So, and when we're talking about data integration, we're also talking about data transformation. How we transform our data from one format from one file to the other. And with Azure Data Factory is a managed serverless service, and it ensures to do this. So it's something Microsoft is managing from you. You didn't need to provision any server. Hope you can still hear me, viewers and the moderator. Hello? Hello, can you still hear me? Hello, can anybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Tobi.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay, nice. And you can also see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
So, is something Microsoft managed for you? It's not an infrastructure as a service. It's more of like a platform as a service. It's something like a serverless that it can prop up itself, trying to upscale itself or down. So it's a managed service. Second thing we need to know about Azure Data Factory is part of Azure Data Platform. Azure Data Platform involves Azure Data Lake, Azure SQL DB, and a lot like that. Azure Data Explorer, which is for streaming data, and one of the new services that Microsoft Power BI customer advisory team developed with crypto language. So these are services that involve Azure Data Platform, something that involves data. And sincerely speaking, when we talk about integration services transformation, it is either divided into two in the basic of workload. It's either it is a batch process or a stream process. And ADX is Azure Data Explorer, is mainly for uh, streaming processes, but an Azure Data Factory is for batch process. What do you mean by batch process? It's not that the data is coming at real time. There may be a lagging effect. You want to copy data from one maze to the other. A scheduling process, tumbling window, something that it comes in batch, not as it is coming as real time, like how our IoT sensors work. So we have other services that Microsoft are prepared for that, like Stream Analytics, IoT Hub, and things like that. But Azure Data Factory is for batch process, and I believe we understand from previous 3 weeks we'll have been informed about batch processes in Azure. A beauty thing I love about Data Factory when I kickstart was no code, no code. And bet with me, if you are very good in Power Query like me, because one of the things that prompt me to love Azure Data Factory is the knowledge derived from Power Query. If you can enjoy Power Query either on Excel or on Power BI, I can bet with you are good to go with Azure Data Factory. It's low code, no code, or you didn't need to write a lot of code like you do in SSIS, store procedure. There's a lot of click on the button that you can use. Is now regarding the kind of resources it is a compute resource. So that something you can have handy is a compute resources. What did I mean by that? There are different type of resources on Azure. We have compute resources, storage resources, networking resources. Azure Data Factory does not have a storage of its own. It's there to do the job and go away. It's like a cutlass. The cutlass, when it cut away the grass, you need to put the grass inside a storage or somewhere to store it. Or when you have harvested, it's like an harvester. When you harvest your grape, your orange, it's only doing the job of harvesting for you. It's not storing it for you. So have it in the back of your mind that Azure Data Factory does not have its own storage. It works with other storage like block storage, Azure Data Lake, SQL DB, and other things like that. But majorly what it's doing is a compute service. And that is why one of the things is also serverless. So I believe at this point, we all understand or we have a very brief and precise understanding of what Azure Data Factory is. And I believe if you go out there and you want to discuss Azure Data Factory, nothing more, nothing less, you will be more comfortable to do that. Okay. Now, the Azure Data Factory, things we need to know is it works with an instance, and it's something that we can create as a studio. So it has its own studio. So because when we are working on BI project, we use SSDT. We use a lot of devices. For example, for Power BI people, you download Power BI desktop. No, Azure Data Factory Studio is on Azure Portal, and this is how it looks. So, but every Azure Data Studio, Azure Data Factory Studio is attached to an instance. Like an instance is an account. So we'll dive into that. I just bring out how it is, where we do the job. So it's not an application you download on your PC that you install like Power BI. It's not a services you provision like provisioning a virtual machine. It is like a studio on the internet, on the Azure portal, and which we explore in the course of the day. And this is how the studio is, and this is where we execute a lot of the job that we do with Azure Data Factory. Now, I love bringing this out because when I also started, a lot of confusion comes in, and the way we do the job almost put us into problem. And what I'm trying to say is the high level component in the ADF development model. For every software, there's a development model. Also, Azure Data Factory has its own. Azure Data Factory development model is like this. You author your processes, you save, preferable, you can publish your pipeline. I'll explain what a pipeline is, or you use a linked Git repository, which is very, very important because when working with Azure Data Factory does not store or save anything for you. And that's why sometimes you need to be publishing as soon as possible. But if you don't want any clash, like one of us, when we have worked in the past, that we realize that all what we have been doing when the internet break is not really saving. You configure a Git repository or Azure repo with it, depending on the class of or on the type of adoption you have in your organization, and then you run your publish pipeline, and you monitor. So this is an high level, and the major highlight of this high level is that it is always good to connect your Azure data. You start with authoring of your processes, and then it's always good to save with a Git repository or Azure repo, whatever the one Azure DevOps, sorry, whatever the one being adopted in your organization. Now, we are moving further. And one of the things that you need to know, well, what is this guy doing? What is Azure Data Factory doing? What is its essence? What's the purpose of its existence? Majorly, the purpose of existence is of Azure Data Factory, the Azure Data Platform, is what we call ETL, or in a better way, in this modern world, ELTL, extract, transform, load, or extract, load, transform, load, whatever process work for you. What do we mean by that? It's about moving data from operational database to analytical database. This is one of the things Azure Data Factory is doing. It's not limited to this, but this is one of its major things. You have some file. Operational database are things coming from ERPs, coming from point of sales devices, and you want to move some data. Azure Data Factory can do the job for you and put it in analytical database like Synapse, like Data Lake, where you can do analytics. Because as we know in the data engineering platform, it is not advisable to be doing analytics on OLTP, operational database, and moving your file, moving your data from one database to the, because an OLTP or operational database is not optimized for analytics. They are always, I know we'll have covered that in previous session, they are always many write, short read. But an analytical database is majorly for reading, for doing analytics, business intelligence, and it's more optimized with a lot of different compression ratio. So moving your data from one form or the other is part of it, and this is one of ADF can do doing the scheduling of the job. And ADF here, you can see like you have a data estate, trying to move it into somewhere like Synapse or SQLDB for your analytics. Now, we have talked of the job is doing. How does it do the job? How does ADF do the job? Before we now start moving to resources, checking out resources of ADF. There is different way you can do data transformation. We have started that Azure Data Factory is for data integration, and I said data integration is about data copying, data movement, and transformation. Movement is about copying data from one storage to the other through a batch process. Transformation is about transforming. For example, I'll show you some sample data. Maybe you want to extract the first name from the full name. That's a transformation. No matter how simple it is, it's still a transformation. So ways of data transformation in ADF. The first one is activity dispatch, where Azure Data Factory let another platform perform some transformation. There's a presentation I did with Data Grillen in Germany, talking about how synonymous of Azure Data Factory to someone harvesting things in a garden. So sometimes if I said Azure Data Factory dispatch activities, it means that you can use some other resources on top of Azure Data Factory to complete the job, like Azure Data Break, SQL Store Procedure. So we have activity dispatch. You are still using Azure Data Factory, but it lets another platform to perform the transformation, because sincerely, when Azure Data Factory started, I'm really not going to the history of Azure Data Factory. It starts with just copying of data. Transformation was not included. Copying of data is just moving the data, and that's all. But when we move to Azure Data Factory Gen 2, Microsoft introduced the transformation part, which data flow also comes into play. So activity dispatch, like using store data bricks, also help. Another one you cannot, for us that we have been experienced BI developer, ETL developer, we know about SSIS. And some people always say, I hope I'm still audible, I'm clear.
Yes, please. You are still very audible.
Oh, nice, thanks. Some people always refer to Azure Data Factory as SSIS in the cloud. Yes, it is. There's differences and there's similarity, but you can still, and Microsoft has their release wave and their what they call it, their adoption pipeline, the way they roll out product in the market. SSIS have been in existence before I started practicing, and a lot of companies have been using some SSIS package and they are still using it. But we all know that sooner or later we are all moving to the cloud. Limited resources, even when you are still operating on an hybrid cloud, on an hybrid environment like private cloud, or you are using both private cloud and public cloud. Most organizations will push most, except for data integrity and security, to the cloud. For Microsoft to accommodate some of the on-premises packages you have done on SSIS, you can run SSIS package on Data Factory. So it solves the wahala of the notion of we have a lot of SSIS, this SSIS is on-prem. How do you do that? It's actually possible. And I've run a demo before in the past. I think when we're also starting to do on-premises, run some packages, maybe that will be for some more advanced classes. Data flow. I love this very well. It's almost the same thing with data flow on Power BI service. And if you are conversant with Power BI, one of the best way to work with Power BI, except the new one that was just introduced, which is Dataman, is to use data flow for deployment, where multiple people can work together. And data flow can be simplified as Power Query in the cloud. So if you are conversant with Power Query, it's also the same thing with data flow. So you can use those Power Query steps that you use in Power BI. I believe the audience here are conversant with Power BI or a little bit of Power Query, you can use all these steps. So if, though, as of today, not all Azure data center or region enable data flow for data factory, but it's a very good one to start. And I love that, and I've used it a lot, because especially though it's not really being configured on the M language that was used on Power Query, still is using the Spark language, but it still is almost the same way that you use. And I love transforming or transforming, let's say transforming from one product to the other, because whether we like it or not, change management is part of software development. And that is what I preach. It's not just introducing software. We must change people with software. And a lot of people have been used with Power Query, and Microsoft also. And Microsoft is part of change management. They won't just drop a product on us. Any product that Microsoft drop on us, sometimes they also know that it backfire, and it's likely they go back to their drawing board. But I can tell you, if you are good with data flow, there is data flow on Power Query, and there's data flow on data factory, and also Power Query itself. You can actually use the main Power Query in Power BI. There's a version of it also in data flow, and these are the ways of doing your data transformation on Azure Data Factory. So I will just show us a basic architecture of how it is. And we go to the little demo we can do today. I believe subsequent class might be more practical, but today is to uh, attract our interest on what Azure Data Factory can do, how you can work with it, and what it is, and how comfortable to make it comfortable. And subsequent class, if God permit us, we'll be diving up in, because Azure Data Factory is a course on its own. It can take like 10 hours course to get to the point. So basic ETL architecture is something like this. One of the things you do in Azure Data Factory: scheduling, monitoring, sending alerts, and letting you know that there's a new data comes in, you send an alert, and this is how it goes. So I won't dwell more on this. Now, so a little demo we'll try to do today is about copying a data from an HTTP from the web, and we're dropping it on data lake. I have a scenario. MS2 is a company that's trying to expand in Nigeria, but they are not yet to bring up infrastructure in Nigeria. They want to partner with a sister company. Excuse me, sorry. They want to partner with someone that have established some infrastructures. Let's say, for example, you sell some product. I want to give us a scenario of where the Azure Data Factory can be used practically. You sell a product and you are trying to expand to the northern part of Nigeria. You estimate the cost of building a building complex in northern part of Nigeria, trying to equip employee, trying to move your product from Lagos to northern part of Nigeria. Try all those things, because you didn't know what will happen there in other part of Nigeria. Maybe your business will boom or not. So you decide to go with a pilot project with a sister company there. Someone selling a complementary product. You are selling, I like food. You are selling butter. Let's just say normal butter. And someone is selling bread. Okay, you look for a business partner. The person selling bread, you introduce your butter at the side. But sincerely, in the business world, you that you operate in Lagos, you have your business domain in Lagos already. But those one in another part of Nigeria, you are using Microsoft Dynamics 365. Maybe they are using another third-party software to get their sales. So the way data comes in, and you can't just introduce your software just like that. Okay, you are done. Okay, let's introduce our product to their software. That software is interested in analytics. We want to be seeing the analytics, and we didn't want the manual process. And this sister company in the northern part of Nigeria will be recording the sales of your product with their own software. I'm just giving a scenario of where I think I'm getting used to ADS now instead of ADF. ADS is Azure Data Explorer. You can check it out. It's a very nice product, also from Microsoft. We're just coming up to learn more about it. So, the company in northern part of Nigeria are using their software to record the sales, and their developer are ready to expose some part of the API or part of the sales so that you can get it here in Lagos and you can do your reporting. So it's not that someone will be selling one Excel, and when the Excel get to Lagos, they will have manipulate figure, and then at the end of the day, things is changing. And this is what we see in ad hoc reporting and manual reporting. So this is a typical scenario. The API comes as HTTP on the web, and you want to store the data on Azure Data Lake. It comes daily. So first thing first, I will now use this pipeline to explain some component of ADF. The first thing here is the source, the link services. The link services is like the connection. It's like when you want to connect to SQL DB, you get the SQL instance name, the credential. This is the same thing like link services. It's just the connection, the credential to where you are connecting to. Number two here is the data source, this data set. It's like the metadata. I told you earlier that Azure Data Factory does not have a storage of its own. So this data set is not a storage, it's just a shape or metadata of how your data is, and you need to create it. The third thing is the link services of the target, because your source is coming from northern part of Nigeria, is dropping in Lagos. You can see that's data copying, movement of data. It's not data migration. You are not migrating any data. You are moving data from API from, let's say, vendor BCCC. You use Microsoft Dynamics Business Central, and you want to get the data coming from that business scenario. So the source, you create your link services, which is like connection. The connection to your Azure Data Lake or Azure SQLD can be anything. Will be different from what you'll be using with your sister company in northern part of Nigeria. So you create another link services as the target, which is the sync here. So the fourth one is also the data lake data link services also. So we also have the pipeline. So now, before we move to the pipeline, copy activity. Activity is an action, moving one data from one place to the other. But what we talk about pipeline is combination of activities. When you have more than one activities, you can't have an activity without a pipeline. A pipeline must contain one or more activities. So enough of the talking. Sorry, enough of the talking. I know a lot of people are very curious to see the demo. So let me try to go. Can you still see my screen now? Can anybody still confirm you can see my screen? Hello?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. So enough of the talking. Can you see Azure portal now?
Yes, we can see your portal.
Okay, so as I explained earlier, Azure Data Factory is a resource. So you need to create resources as you need to create it as a resource. I'm not going to that place because creating resources is something anybody can explore, and majorly we just want to focus on Azure Data Factory, because if you want to start with creating resources group and networking and other things, we might actually take a lot of our time. So I have some ADF running before, so I have that. So this is an ADF instance. So as I said, it has its own studio. So I open the studio here. So the studio comes up. So I can try to drop out to create resources. Sorry, pardon me, I'm not creating resources here. So because if you want to start with that, I think we won't even go to anywhere alone than just to create the resources. than just to create resources. So my studio is up. As I said earlier, you do all the job in your studio. So this is my studio. See how nice it is. And I can see why I brought up the high level development stage of Azure data. You need to know this. Very, very important. It's more than is I can say it's one of the most important things I've been saying so far, because I have four victim of it. When you work and everything, you realize that your job did not really save. It's like a job queue. It does not really save because Azure Data Factory does not have a storage of its own. So you need to configure it to something. You can see Microsoft is putting it as a warning. You can see this is a warning action. Azure Data Factory allow you to configure a Git repository either with Azure DevOps or GitHub. So this is the version control. And please, if you are working with Data Factory, I will say again and again, for you to track your changes, especially when you are developing and collaborating, please ensure you configure Git or Azure DevOps to your ADF. Please, I don't want anybody to say, I did one job now, I can't find it again. So this is our studio. I'm using my account here. I'm using my SSD account. This is our studio. This is our home. You can see, you can start with a lot of simple one. You can see the SSIS, configure SSIS, ingest, copy data as scaled ones, orchestrate data, free data platform, transform with data flow, whatever one you want to do. So I can create new. What am I creating? I can start with a pipeline. I told you pipeline is an activity. Consider you have a garden. You want to create ridges. Sorry, I love food and I like agriculture because I'm once an I'm once a farmer and agric engineer. So I love to make an example like that. You have a garden, you want to prepare your garden. The first activity is to clear the bush. So that's an activity. The next activity is to spread your seed. Okay, let's say within or clear the bush or put the bush or prepare this nursery bed. Those are activities. When you combine those activities together, till you get your till you plant your seed and your seed is germinating, you can call the combination of those activities as pipeline. So this is our home. If I go to author, you see what you have done in your author. You can see I've not really done anything. I have some pipeline. I have some pipeline running before. This is an example of a pipeline. Um, this is an example of a pipeline running before. So I will go back. Sorry. So monitoring is good to monitor. You have some pipeline you monitor. So these are some pipeline I've done before. I can see this is July 6th. Sincerely, it has been long I've been here on this pipeline. I've done this since May, just like a demo like this, and it's still running because I schedule it to be running every day. And it's chopping my money. Maybe I'll stop it after this class. So this is where you monitor. You can have plenty pipeline. You can connect pipeline to each other. And this is where you also manage things, all the things you have done. You can manage them here and things like that. So let's try to see one. So let's start with a pipeline. So our case study is to so this is a pipeline. So it's just a demonstration. Oh, our time is fast spent. And I think I'm ending 4 minutes time. Is that right, moderator? I'm just saying that I'm more conscious of the time.
Yeah, you have 14 minutes more.
Oh, 14
But
minutes more. Okay, good.
out
Okay,
of that
14.
40 minutes, we take question and answer.
Okay, so let me use 4 minutes more and we use 10 minutes to do collaboration and let's hear from our audience what did they feel. So
All right,
majorly it's like
that's fine.
you start with pipeline. So this is where you start home. You can see it's authoring. I can change the name. I love using PL first. So I can see underscores Niger and 9JA demo. So I'm naming what I'm doing here is naming my pipeline. So you have activities. As I said, you can see is well configured. Is in line with what I've told you. We start with the pipeline. These are a lot of activities you can do. And one of the activities we want to do is just to copy data. It's drag and drop. Bam, I've dragged it. This is it. So activity number one. Activity number one, copy data. Where am I copying it from? Can you see the source? Can you see from the slide I show you? Can you see? This is the architecture of what we want to do now. You know, sometimes as a solution architecture, you love to draw your architecture before jumping. Do know architecture takes time, experience to draw, but it's always good to have a rough sketch. So the source, what's our source? Our source is HTTP. So we can start. So before we go there, we can actually go different route. There are different way of doing things. We can start with a new one. We can start with a new before I said we need to create a metadata. We can start with we need to create a meta, which is the data set. We can create our data set, continue. So what I'm trying to do is the data set, the format of the data coming in. If you know a batch process are being configured. Is not as it is coming, things are changing. A batch process is always being configured down. You'll have studied the way your data is coming in, the frequency is using to coming in, and you have batch your process down. That is the difference between streaming data. Even at the point in streaming data too, you understand the kind of data you are streaming. So what I'm doing here, I'm creating an activity. Um, okay. Okay, don't let me go far because of our time. Let me just use explanation directly. So you have the source here. Also have the sink. So there's some things, yeah, schema. If I bring you some data, you can map your schema. And one of the data I want to use, sorry, I want to use before Mokaro. So I have the data here. I have an API that I can call every day. Even I use it for demo. You can also try it out. I've been using it for years, even so for some demo. Um, you can set up. Okay, I think I set up one. Yes, sales module project 3 months ago. So I can be calling this API and data will be coming every day. Every day you can check out Mokaro out. I use it and I enjoy it. So this is the data, document number, document type. And if I publish this data now, it will give me fresh data today. And if you can configure it daily to be giving you fresh data. So you can always use it as demo data, sincerely. But you can also do some programming that will make the data to be changing. So peradventure, this is how the data is coming in. You want to okay, let me try to manage my time. I'm sorry. Let me try to manage my time. So you can do some mapping and some settings here. And this is where you debug. Doing this will always publish. And this is what I mean. If you are not using Git, you need to be publishing every time. Once you didn't publish, it's not safe. And if your system goes to inactivity, you might actually lose some job. So I think this class is mainly to make us comfortable on what ADF can do. And at this point, I will drop the curtain. Sorry, we didn't really go more into practical, though the theoretical part is more also important at the beginner stage. So that when you are stuck, you have the theoretical part is good to be able to speak in the public, to let people know that you are confident of what you know. And I think I've done justice to that. So thank you very much. I will draw the curtain not to waste our time because our time is precious and we also take one thing or the other to attend this session. I would love to hear your question and answer. Thanks.
Mr. Kazeem, thank you so much for your session. Like I mentioned, I did say that Mr. Kazeem is one of the wonderful people we have in the house, and that we will surely enjoy him. And for me, he has been able to do justice to his presentation, which is on Azure Data Factory. From what we can deduce from his presentation, he has been able to lay a very strong foundation for us on issues around Azure Data Factory, ADF, where he discussed about issues about data integration, data migration, batch data integration workload, no code, low code, and a host of data engineering essentials. So, for me, it has been able to lay more foundation for us. Like I did mention from the outset, this is a 10-week program, and we are at the level of the fourth, and we still have more 6 weeks to go by. So each one of the week is a foundation to what is next. Like he did mention, uh, he lay more emphasis on the theoretical background so that if we need to get any concept, we'll be able to understand those concepts very well. And the day after, we move to demo. So from the demo, it demonstrated what are the features of ADF Studio, like what we have as the home, the author, the monitor, and the manage. And he also went ahead to demonstrate how we start from what? Pipeline. Like he did mention, every activity start from what? From pipeline. He was able to demonstrate to us how we can, make use of our activities. And the only thing he was able to do was to copy a data, and also he explained some of the concepts around the activities that has to do with what? Copy a data, like the issue of the source and some other things around it. So I have a question. Let me project the question for you. Uh, Mr. Kasim, there is a question from Anna that what is the step to take for someone who want to take this course?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so for someone, let me try to interpret that. For someone to take the course, mean someone that want to be an expert in ADF. So
Yeah.
for someone to be an expert in ADF, I would love to say you start with don't start with ADF. Start with something like Power Query, and then
Okay.
you move to ADF gradually. There's a
Okay.
reason for that because it's always good to start from where things are coming from the source.
Yeah.
You understand? So uh step to take is try to shape in your Power Query first to an extent, or if you are coming from the SSIS side, store procedure. Your store procedure can be shaping to an extent. But if you are not coming from the SSIS side, which is more technical, Power Query is still more closer to the business people than SSIS. You can
Mm.
actually start with Power Query and then move to ADF. So within a space of 3 months, I think anybody should be comfortable with ADF. And practice make expert. If you are in an
Yes.
organization that you are using ADF, sincerely speaking, you'll be better than Catherine. Yeah, only because one of the people I know that are very good in ADF is Catherine and Andrew Paul, which are one of the main experts at the beginning of rollout of ADF. So practice make expert. The more you use it at your organization determine the more you you learn it. Are you saying Power Query is an offshoot of ADF? What I'm really saying is Power learning Power Query will give you the concept of data transformation. ADF, I love telling people there is difference between tools and knowing the concept. Business intelligence is a concept. Microsoft Power BI is just a tools. You understand? So learning there's a way we do there's a way there. For example, now let me come with a scenario that happened with one of my colleague. One of my colleague this week, he was trying to work on a project, and there's about 3 database we need to join. We need to join. We need to join together. But he didn't know the concept to work about. And I need to tell, okay, this is the concept. There's a concept called mismatch process. Do you know about it? He said no. Once you can crack that concept, you know the kind of activity to place. And that is what I mean by learning Power Query first, which would take you the concept. ADF is just the tools. It's a tools. It won't teach you the concept. You are the one controlling it. You understand? So learning Power Query is easier to use to learn the concept, and you can now go further to ADF. I think I is that one is better. Any other question?
Yeah. For now, we are still expecting more questions.
Okay. What
Okay,
would be
Anna
my
just
life?
asked.
Okay.
Anna
Okay.
just asked, can we have the feedback form dropped on this chat? Yes, the feedback form has been. I've been showcasing the feedback form. If you look at the screen, we have the feedback form. So, Mr. Larry, I'm sorry, Mr. Kazim, we
Yes.
have 1 minute. We have 1 minute to go, and I want to quickly do a Thanksgiving on behalf of the organizers of this event. Firstly, we want to thank you for creating the time and for preparing this handsome presentation and for your availability to make this presentation. I want to thank you for all the work you have done behind the scene to make this a success. And to our listeners, to our participants, everywhere you are listening to us, we want to thank you for being part of this session. Like I did mention from the beginning of this session, is a 10-week event, and all sessions are recorded. If you have missed anything from the beginning, you have the opportunity to go to our YouTube page and check all the recorded versions. If you see the scrolling bar, the scrolling messages, you can see a lot about our platforms on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on Meetup. So you can look out for us and be part of our event. So, but importantly, we want to have your feedbacks about how we did, whether there's anything we need to work on, or if there's anything we have done very well. Please, 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 we rely on your feedback, and we want to believe you will be able to send us your feedback. The website for the feedback, the link is http column double forward slash bit.ly slash week for figure 4 week 4 week 4 feedback Nigeria data platform. We'll be glad to have your feedback. Franca Ibzo asks a question. Can you please drop the feedback form on the chat? Yes, it's already there. Oh, on the chat. Let me quickly do that on the chat so that people can quickly click on the chat and submit. Just a minute. Okay. Okay, like Franca asks, yeah, I've dropped the link for the feedback form on the YouTube. We can quickly click on it and get our feedback done. So thank you so much. This is where we'll be drawing the curtain for today's session. It has been a great event for the first session and the second session. I want to thank my speakers for coming on board and for them to have done justice to their presentations. Until next week, when we come on your way, I want you to be aware that um, for next week, we also have very beautiful presentations to be made, and I'll quickly let you be aware of it so that you can get prepared for it. Next week for track one, analyzing data with Excel, we'll be discussing on building dashboard with pivot table and charts. And secondly, for track one, we'll be discussing for essentials of data engineering. We'll be looking at develop batch processing solutions with ADF to data bits. You can see that this is a build up to what Mr. Kazeem has been able to do justice to for this week. Likewise, for track two, we'll be looking at visualizing data with Power BI reports, and also under essentials of data science, we'll be looking at create models by using Azure automated machine learning. So we are celebrating data in Nigeria. I want everybody to be aware of different platforms through which we can actualize data platform operations. So, Mr. Kasim, thank you so much. My audience, thank you so much. Uh, until next week, when somebody else come on your way as moderator for these sections, I want to thank you for being part of it. Mr. Kasim, thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thanks, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, bye bye. Yeah, thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Yeah.